Good day, Black Knight scholars. Mr. Deegan here with another version of your VidNotes videos. It's Unit 8 and it's Lesson 4. Please get out your 8-4 VidNotes. And today we're going to talk about the Holocaust and other world genocides. Here's a picture of a concentration camp, which we will talk about. And here's a picture of the Armenian genocide. What is a genocide? Let's define this term. It's the systematic and purposeful destruction of a racial, political, religious, or cultural group. And let's look at the word study here. It comes from the Greek word genos, which means race, and genocide comes from the Latin word cide, which means killing. The Holocaust. It's a Greek word that means sacrifice by fire. When was the Holocaust? It occurred from January 1933 until May of 1945. What was it? It was a genocide in which Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany and its allies killed 6 million Jews. And here is a photograph of Hungarian Jews being selected by Nazi officers. You see them here, to be sent to a gas chamber at Auschwitz concentration camp in 1944. What caused the Holocaust? Number one, totalitarianism and extreme nationalism. So these totalitarian dictators have government censorship, which says, we'll protect you from reality. And extreme nationalism. Here's an example of extreme nationalism where a leader says, follow me, look at our flag. This is called blind allegiance to a leader. And German citizens' blind allegiance to Hitler caused the Holocaust. What caused the Holocaust? Number two, a long history of anti-Semitism. What is anti-Semitism? Anti-Jew. Prejudice, hatred, and/or discrimination against Jews. Now, the Nazis were anti-Semitic because they saw the Jews as Christ killer, a religious way. Economically, the Nazis saw Jews as money obsessed. They saw the Jews socially as vulgar and pushy. And racially, they saw the Jews as an inferior race. We need to remember that the Nazis were not the first. This was a long history in world history of anti-Semitism. It starts in the ancient world. The earliest examples go all the way back to 3rd century BCE, before Christ. And it's mainly against the Jewish diaspora in Europe. The Middle Ages saw Christians and Muslims both persecuting Jews. There was forced conversions and expulsions, as well as the false blood libel accusations in the Middle Ages. And then the Crusades, religious wars. This was the peak of Jewish persecution. During the Black Death, the Black Plague of the 1300s, that was blamed on the Jews, and that led to expulsions and massacres against the Jews. Other famous examples of anti-Semitism include the Grimm fairy tales, which often had Jewish villains, as well as the American inventor Henry Ford, who had the Dearborn Independent, which was his own anti-Semitic newspaper. We need to remember that hatred for the Jewish race was not invented by the Nazis. Let's look at this Holocaust historian. He says the Nazis did not discard the past, they built upon it, the past of anti-Jew. They did not begin a development, they completed it. That's Raoul Hilberg, a Holocaust historian. Number three, Germany's defeat in World War I and its economic depression was blamed on the Jews, and that caused the Holocaust. You see a Jewish cartoon and a German soldier being stabbed in the back. What caused the Holocaust? Hitler's belief in the master race, the Aryans. Here's an excerpt from Hitler's autobiography, Mein Kampf, My Struggle in English. All the human culture, all the results of art, science, and technology that we see before us today are almost exclusively the creative product of the Aryan. exclude him, and perhaps after a few thousand years, darkness will again descend on the earth. Human culture will pass, and the world turn to a desert. Without the Aryan race, the world would fail, according to Hitler in his words from Mein Kampf. What caused the Holocaust? The Nazis' final solution plan. And the plan was to use extermination camps and gas chambers to exterminate the Jewish race. Here is an Einsatzgruppen, a task force that was charged with rounding up Jews and executing them. They were the first organization to attempt mass killings, and they were part of an organized policy of genocide. And they followed the German military, and killings began in Poland in 1939. However, these groups were inefficient, costly, demoralizing, and slow. And the Nazis wanted a more humane way for the killers during the Holocaust. So the Nazi leadership, excluding Adolf Hitler, gathers in this building outside of Berlin in 1942, and it's called the Wannsee Conference. The goal of the conference is to determine a final solution to the Jewish question. And the outcome of this meeting is the mass extermination of Jews via gas chambers. So the Einsatzgruppen was not good enough. The final solution said gas chambers. Let's look at some other examples of world genocides. The Armenian genocide of April 1915 to 1917, which we've talked about. It's when the new Turkish government in the Ottoman Empire wants to rid the region of all Armenian Christians, so it sends them on long treks over desert. Many of them die and are executed by the Turkish police. A second example of world genocides is the Soviet Union's Great Purge under Joseph Stalin. It ran from 1936 to 1938, and the Soviet government executes or sends to labor camps millions of suspicious citizens who really just were criticizing Joseph Stalin, and they were probably right to be critical of this dictator. This picture shows labor camps, aka gulags. A third example of a world genocide is when a dictator in Cambodia exterminates artists, former government officials, monks, and minorities. Here's the continent of Asia. South of China is the tiny country of Cambodia. And in 1975, communists in Cambodia put this man, Pol Pot, in power to make society more agricultural based. And about 2 million Cambodians die, or 1/4 of the Cambodian population, because of Pol Pot and this dictator's government. A fourth example of a world genocide was when the Hutu tribe slaughters the Tutsi tribe in an African country called Rwanda. Here is Africa. In the center of the continent is Rwanda, right here by Lake Victoria, right by the equator. There is a long-time hatred between these two tribes, and after the president of Rwanda, who is Hutu, dies in a plane crash in 1994, the Hutus kill 1 million Tutsis. And here is 2 Hutu fighters. He has a big sharp blade with him. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for lesson 4. Please complete those summary questions so you can earn a 30 out of 30. And when you're done with that, a brief preview. Next lesson, we're going to talk about the aftermath of World War II. Until then, this is Mr. Deegan signing off.